In the last video, we spoke about Ananya, someone who deeply loved her father and who, without knowing it, had quietly learned to trust his voice more than her own voice. Many of you actually reached me out after watching it, not because there was no love in your family, but because something in her story felt familiar for you. And that familiarity, that quiet recognition is exactly where I want to begin today. Hi, I'm Mahalakshmi Samson. In my work and in people very close to me, I have noticed something very subtle. Something that is easy to miss because it looks so much like love. Sometimes a person can carry a child's emotional world inside an adult's life. From the outside, they appear completely capable. They manage careers, relationships, responsibilities, decisions. But actually, inside, their sense of certainty still depends on someone else's voice. And this continues for a very long time, or at least long time, inside a family. When it happens, something deeper slowly begins to form. And in Ananya's story, if you look at it, Ananya actually grew up rarely having to fully trust her own instincts. Because someone she loved deeply was always there for her, guiding her, reassuring her, deciding with her, and slowly, if you see what happened was without any intention of harm, her father's voice grew stronger inside her than her own voice. And because that voice became her emotional anchors, safety itself became attached to it for her. So when someone else came into her life, someone who genuinely cared for her, but who thought differently, felt differently, or approached life from different point of view, different perspective, or from a different place, she couldn't fully trust them. Not because she did not love them, but because familiarity had quietly become her definition of safety. And this is where most people misunderstand what has happened. The problem is not love. The problem begins when one voice becomes so central in a relationship that the other person slowly loses the space to develop their own voice. And this does not happen through cruelty. Actually, it even does not happen through control. It happens through love. A love that became fused with being needed. And here I want to speak to parents for a moment because this matters enormously. When you spend years guiding your child, protecting them, being the person that they turn to, being needed becomes part of how you experience love. So when your child begins thinking for themselves, choosing differently, emotionally stepping back, it may not feel like growth. It may feel like distance. It may feel like loss. It may even feel like rejection. And the child may feel guilty for growing, you know that? Because somewhere inside, without anyone saying so, connection had quietly become linked to staying the same. And in psychology, there is a name for this pattern, and it is called enmeshment. Enmeshment is not a word that means a family is broken or toxic. It simply describes what happens when emotional boundaries becomes so blurred that individuality slowly becomes less important even than connection. And in these families, there is often a great deal of love. What there is very little of is emotional space. What there is very little of is emotional space. The space to disagree, space to feel something different, space to become someone your family didn't expect you to be. And maybe that is the deepest question this video is asking. Can someone stay deeply connected while still becoming fully themselves? And it is important to have the right perspective when we are talking about healthy families here. Healthy families are not families without closeness. They are families where closeness and individuality are not in competition. Closeness and individuality never compete in healthy families, where people are allowed to think differently, feel differently, choose differently, and grow in directions no one expected, without guilt, without distance, without love being withdrawn. Because healthy love is not become who I need you to be. Healthy love is always become who you are and I will still be here. And are we giving this space to our loved ones in our family? Is a question that I want to ask you in this space. So, what can we actually do? We may be there or we may not be there, but if you're serious about building healthy families, if you're very serious about building your family in a very healthy way, then what I would tell you is if you recognize, right, if we recognize these patterns in ourselves or in our families, what can we actually do is there are three things that you can do. The first one is create space for individual thinking. Healthy families do not only teach children what to think, they also create room for children to discover what they think. That's the space where individuality grows for children, where they become leaders of their life. Two of the most powerful questions a parent can ask are simply, what do you feel about this? What would you choose? Not to agree, not to endorse, but to genuinely want to know. The second thing that you can do is let independence be a sign of love. When a child begins making their own choices, it is not rejection. It is often the clearest sign that the relationship gave them enough safety to trust themselves. Love does not shrink when someone becomes more themselves. Healthy love expands with them. The third thing that you can do about it is normalize emotional separation. In healthy families, people can emotionally separate without emotionally abandoning each other. They do not need to think the same, feel the same, or live the same way to love each other deeply. Because love needs closeness, but growth needs space. So if any part of this video touched something in you, I just want to ask you to stay with that for a moment. Not to fix it, not to analyze it, just to notice what it brings up. And believe me, it will give you a very deep awareness. Because many people live inside these emotional patterns for years without ever having a name for actually what they are feeling. And this week, I want to invite you to try one small thing. Notice one moment where you automatically reach for someone else's approval before you have even asked yourself what you think about it. And in that moment, before you reach outward, pause and ask yourself quietly, what do I feel? What do I actually think? Not what I should feel, what I do feel. And this is important because closeness is not the problem. Losing yourself in that closeness, that is the problem. And maybe healthy love, the kind that truly lasts, is not about becoming emotionally dependent on each other. It is about staying deeply connected while still remaining fully yours. If any part of this video has touched you, I invite you to like this video, share it with someone to whom it may matter a lot, as well subscribe if you want to stay in this space where you can build your perspectives about yourself, about your life, about your world, through which you can actually build personal excellence, and that's going to help you to live your life fully. Till we meet in the next video,